package of spending cuts and fund transfers that reduces this year's state budget deficit by more than half. Would you please talk about what this means for the 28th District and how this moves us forward in balancing the budget for this fiscal year?
Sure, you know, the big issue for the last few years has been our state budget, and it'll probably continue to be the issue for a few years. If you'll remember, we make a 2-year budget in our state, and then every year we come back and we sort of tweak it a little bit, sort of like we do with our home budgets. We have to make sure we're not spending too much in one area or not enough in another. Well, one of the problems that we have in our state right now, and frankly in our nation and in the entire globe, is that we've had a lot of folks that have had job losses, job cuts, pay freezes, furloughs, and so the spending that's going on has decreased greatly. And so we were sort of used to having sort of an allowance that came to the state of a certain amount of money that we were could sort of guarantee that we were going to spend. And the problem is that folks in our state have had less money to spend. It's sort of like our allowance has been cut. And so our budget year in the 2011 year started in 2010 and it goes to 2011. And so here we are in January of 2011 and we realize that we're going to be short on our budget. We didn't overspend, we just didn't get enough revenue in. In other words, we didn't get enough of our allowance. And that is because people have had less money to spend. And so we've had to make cuts. And one of the things that we did in the first 2 weeks of the House was make a cut quickly, because we have to be able to balance the budget. It's a constitutional requirement. We are not allowed to have debt spending, and we had to do that. So we came in and we very quickly did that. We're about 3/4 of the way towards a zero budget now. We have a little bit more cutting to do. It's a little harder to do the longer we get into the process. It becomes a little more contentious, but we were able as leaders here in the state to make these tough decisions, to make the cuts that needed to happen. How this will affect folks in our district in particular is that you know, you're going to be seeing less services out there, and you might get notice that you might, if you depend on a state service for some reason, you might see that it's being cut somewhat. But we're trying really hard as good stewards of our state's resources to make sure that we keep our public structures intact. In other words, roads, bridges, but also the public structures that support us, like safety net issues, things like unemployment and health care for those who can't afford it. And so we're trying to make really tough decisions to balance our budget and to yet keep our safety net and our public structures in good shape, because you know, we really won't be able to have our economy grow if we don't have good public structures to base them on. So people may begin to see that perhaps hours are cut perhaps at a state agency, or that they may get a little bit slower response on something because there's frankly less employees to respond. And so you're going to see that happening. And I just want to guarantee folks that I am doing everything I can to make sure that we keep our safety net intact, and that we continue to look forward to what we want to look like on the other side of this recession. We want to look like we're a good state where we want to live, that we're one Washington with opportunity for everyone. And so that's what we hope to have happen at the end of this budget cycle. Certainly this year we'll also be creating a new budget for the 11-12 budget year. And there's going to be lots of problems there. That's going to be the big story, but we'll just keep working on it, and we're going to have hope that we're going to move forward and get through this recession.
Would you please tell us a little bit about what you're doing in your new leadership role to help legislation pass through the House of Representatives?
Well, in my new leadership role, I have a responsibility of ensuring that the bills that we pass in the House get through. It takes 50 votes, and it's my job to help build consensus around that. But what that means for the people in my district where I live and have my family and my kids and my grandkids is that there's going to be some tough things that happen in our district, things like McNeil Island closing. There's going to be some cutbacks in the wards at Western State Hospital. You know, the folks that work there are our friends and neighbors, and we're going to be really mindful of the cuts and the sacrifices that are going to happen in our district. So in my role in leadership, I have the ability to sort of help to minimize that as much as possible. But in fact, to realize that we are going to have difficulties there, and you know, to think about what can I do as a leader in the district to help the folks that are going to be making these sacrifices.
Thank you.